In this episode of the Modern Wisdom Podcast, host Chris Williamson interviews Vincent Harinam, a former lecturer who was soft-cancelled at a prestigious university in the UK. Harinam explains that he left the academy after being deemed an unworthy candidate due to his participation in podcasts with Williamson and Mikayla Peterson. Harinam describes the process he went through to secure a professorial job at the university. He was initially chosen for the position but was later subjected to a second interview, which he refers to as a kangaroo court. During this interview, the podcast episode he appeared on with Williamson was played, and he was criticized for his association with the manosphere community. Harinam believes that his cancellation was driven by both political and personal motivations, with some individuals being jealous of his boldness and courage in expressing his views. The conversation then shifts to the future of academia, with Harinam predicting that traditional universities will become less viable in the next 20 to 30 years. He argues that cancel culture and ideological biases within academia are driving down the quality of research and deterring the best candidates from pursuing academic careers. Harinam suggests that alternative means of education will emerge, and the university system will undergo significant changes. Moving on to the topic of the dating market, Harinam discusses his interest in examining current dating trends and extrapolating them into the future. He explores the concept of young male syndrome, which suggests that young, single men who perceive themselves as low status are more likely to engage in antisocial behavior. Harinam believes that these men need a galvanizing cause or impetus to incite violence, similar to what has been observed in historical examples such as China's surplus of single men. Harinam highlights the importance of marriage and stable family structures in reducing criminal activity. He cites studies that show a significant decrease in criminal behavior among married men and a negative association between single-parent households and crime rates. Harinam argues that the absence of fathers in the lives of young men can contribute to future violence and criminal activity. The conversation continues with a discussion on the imbalance between men and women in the dating market. Harinam explains that soft polygyny, where one man captures the attention of multiple women, can lead to a surplus of single men and a lack of available partners for other men. He suggests that this imbalance, combined with casual sex and non-committal relationships, can create broken hearts and negative consequences for women. Harinam acknowledges the criticisms of the manosphere and its impact on the dating market, emphasizing the need for a philosophy that benefits everyone rather than just a select few. Harinam cites studies that suggest a decline in fertility rates and a crisis around sex. He mentions a study by Alexander Datsyuk that found 50% of men aged 18 to 30 had not approached a woman in the last year. He also refers to a Pew Research study that revealed 57% of men not in a relationship reported fear of approaching women as the reason for their single status. Harinam believes that the #MeToo movement has contributed to this fear and aversion to approaching women. The conversation then shifts to the topic of polygyny and its potential impact on fertility rates. Harinam argues that historical evidence shows that polygamy is the norm rather than monogamy. He cites studies that found no significant difference in fertility rates between polygamous and monogamous marriages in West African countries. He also mentions that public opinion on polygamy is shifting, with more people expressing support for the institution. The podcast hosts discuss the challenges of increasing fertility rates and mention Hungary as an example of a country that has implemented policies to incentivize childbirth. Hungary has allocated a significant portion of its GDP to family and childcare spending and offers tax incentives and interest-free loans to encourage couples to have children. While Hungary has seen a slight increase in fertility rates, it has not reached the replacement rate of 2.1. Harinam emphasizes the importance of reinvigorating the institution of the family and promoting a culture that values family and children. He believes that society's focus on individualism and self-interest has contributed to the decline in fertility rates. He suggests that men should seek partners who share their values and interests, such as attending religious or political events where like-minded individuals gather. The conversation continues with a discussion on the rapid rise and fall of certain ideologies and communities, such as the Red Pill and Manosphere. Harinam attributes this to the exposure and mainstreaming of these ideas, which often leads to their degradation and the influx of opportunistic individuals. He predicts that many prominent figures in these communities will fade away in the next 5 years. The conversation continues with a discussion about cancel culture and its impact on public figures. Harinam shares his experience of being cancelled for appearing on a podcast and how it affected his personal and professional life. He explains that cancel culture is driven by a desire for power and control, and that it often targets individuals who hold different opinions or challenge the status quo. The conversation then shifts to the men's advice movement, also known as the Manosphere. Harinam discusses the evolution of this movement and how its rhetoric has changed over time. He notes that there has been a shift from a focus on criticizing women to a focus on self-improvement for men. Harinam suggests that this shift may be a tactic to maintain the same audience while changing the messaging. Harinam also addresses the issue of selective amnesia within the men's advice movement. He points out that some prominent figures in the movement have been involved in controversial activities, such as running campsites that promote questionable ideologies. He questions whether these figures have truly changed or if they are simply trying to sanitize their image. The conversation then delves into the future of the men's advice movement. Harinam expresses skepticism about its longevity, suggesting that the current content may not be sustainable in the long run. He compares consuming this type of content to eating fast food, noting that it may be appealing in the moment but ultimately leaves a negative impact. Harinam believes that people will eventually catch on and seek more wholesome content for personal growth. The discussion also touches on the role of age and personal growth. Harinam wonders how much of our personal growth is simply a result of getting older and gaining wisdom over time. He suggests that some of the insights and realizations we attribute to personal development may actually be a natural part of the aging process. Towards the end of the podcast, Harinam mentions the influence of certain individuals in the men's advice movement. He highlights the transformation of a prominent figure named Sneo, who went from promoting degenerate messaging to adopting a more level-headed approach. Harinam suggests that Sneo's shift may be indicative of a broader movement towards more wholesome content within the men's advice sphere. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe.